Did you know that 80% of women in midlife experience symptoms like hot flashes, fatigue, or brain fog? Yeah, but only 25% are ever diagnosed with a hormonal imbalance. That's not just frustrating, it's infuriating. If you've ever been told your labs are normal, nothing's wrong, yay! Meanwhile, you're cranky, tired, sweaty, and gaining weight like it's your new full time job, this episode is for you. Because today I am diving into the number one reason why our hormones can feel like they're completely out of control, even though our blood work looks normal, and why hormone receptor dysfunction matters more than what's actually showing up in our lab results. So pop in those earbuds and take a quick potty break, because I'll be back to break it all down in less than 90 seconds. Welcome to Are You There Midlife? It's me, Monica. Hi, I'm Monica Topetti, wife, mom, health coach, and hormone imbalance survivor. And I'm on a mission to help women in midlife balance hormones naturally without drugs, doctors, or divorce. Are you tired of dealing with heavy, painful periods that look like a crime scene? Are you sick of struggling with anxiety, fatigue, or brain fog that... What was I just saying? Are you frustrated doing all the things to lose weight but still packing on pounds faster than a real housewife changes Birkins? Girl, you are in the right place. Join me each week as I spill the tea on what to expect in perimenopause and beyond. From IBS to insomnia, bloating to funky body odor, I'll unpack all the weird stuff happening inside our midlife bodies, plus give you the latest science and holistic solutions to manage it all. So ditch the Spanx and hop on board the Hot Mess Express. Let's do this. Hey, beautiful. Welcome back to the show. Okay, so in last week's episode, I shared my own personal hormonal roller coaster that began nearly 10 years ago. Now, if you want to hear all the details, I'll be sure to link episode 56 in today's show notes. But Cliff Notes version, what started as cystic acne, fatigue, and insomnia eventually led to heart palpitations so intense I thought I was having a heart attack. After a trip to urgent care at 2 a.m. gave me zero answers, although I did get a prescription for Xanax, which didn't help, by the way. I made an appointment with my primary care doctor who ran a full battery of tests, like the full gambit, including blood work. But when I got a call from his office a week later, he told me everything looks normal, and I lost it. I wanted to scream into the phone, but I don't feel normal. Now, there are a few different reasons why your doctor may tell you your hormone levels are normal, even though they're not. And I dove into some of them way back in episode 2 of the podcast. I'll be sure to link that episode in today's show notes as well. But one of the most overlooked reasons is a far bigger problem than I realized, because it relates to what causes hormone imbalance in the first place. Get this, even though our hormone levels might technically be within the normal range, our hormone receptors, that's these tiny little molecules that bind to our hormones and tell our body how to respond, well, they might actually be blocked. Now listen up, because this is critical. It's not just about the amount of hormones we have circulating in our body. It's about how our body is able to use those hormones that matters even more. Hormone receptor dysfunction, yeah, it's a mouthful, occurs when the cells in our body become so inflamed they actually prevent our hormone receptors from functioning properly. And when our hormone receptors aren't functioning properly, that's when we start to experience all kinds of symptoms that our doctors can't really explain. Because even though our hormone supply could be adequate, Our hormones are being blocked from binding to their receptors, which means they can't perform their normal functions. In fact, blocked hormone receptors are the number one reason why we can have normal hormone levels but still feel completely out of whack. These lab tests we're being given are not factoring in hormone receptor dysfunction. So even if our doctor says everything looks fine, there can be inflammation or other external factors blocking our body's ability to respond to its own hormones. Okay, so if hormone receptor dysfunction is the issue, what causes hormone receptor dysfunction? The biggest drivers are inflammation, stress, diet, gut health, and environmental toxins. So I'm going to break that all down for you, beginning with chronic inflammation. Now, studies have shown that systemic or chronic inflammation is a key player in disrupting hormone receptor function. Chronic inflammation is now believed to play a role, and get this, 75 to 90% of all diseases. And it's also one of the biggest culprits behind hormone receptor dysfunction. According to the World Health Organization, up to 90% of chronic diseases are linked to inflammation, many of which involve hormone imbalances. Because when our body is inflamed, our hormone receptors are less responsive, meaning hormones like estrogen and progesterone and other hormones can't do their job properly. In fact, low-grade inflammation, according to a review in Nature Reviews Endocrinology, is a common underlying factor in several subclinical hormonal imbalances, including estrogen dominance, adrenal dysfunction, and underactive thyroid. The second driver of hormone receptor dysfunction, if you're taking notes, is stress. Now, stress affects us in many ways, particularly in terms of hormone receptors. It affects us in two ways. First, chronic stress or stress over a long period of time can lead to something called cortisol receptor resistance, which simply means that cortisol impairs our body's ability to actually regulate inflammation, while at the same time it's exacerbating adrenal fatigue and other hormone imbalances. Second, cortisol, which is the hormone that we release during stress, can actually alter hormone receptor function. And according to a 2018 study in the Journal of Neuroendocrinology, actually makes it harder for our body to use estrogen and progesterone specifically more efficiently. The third driver of hormone receptor dysfunction is diet and nutritional deficiencies. We all know the dangers of a diet high in processed foods and sugar and refined carbs, but how does it specifically contribute to inflammation? Well, this type of diet actually promotes the formation of something called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs for short. Now, these trigger the release of pro-inflammatory cytokines like IL-6 and TNF alpha. Simply put, these inflammatory molecules block hormone receptors as well as disrupt hormone signaling. In addition, a diet deficient in key nutrients like magnesium, vitamin D, and omega-3 fatty acids, for example, can increase inflammation and impair hormone function. A 2019 study published in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry linked inadequate intake of essential fatty acids to poor estrogen metabolism, which basically means even though our estrogen is circulating, it can't do its job properly. The next driver of hormone receptor dysfunction is poor gut health. Now, I gotta be honest, there's a lot of buzz on social media about gut health. And while it's not the entire answer when it comes to balancing our hormones, it is a very important piece of the puzzle because an unhealthy gut can lead to systemic inflammation. And that makes it harder for our body to metabolize and absorb the essential nutrients it needs to support our hormones. And that can lead to reduced hormone receptor activity. In fact, studies show that 65% of women with gut health issues experience hormonal symptoms like brain fog and mood swings, which are linked to estrogen receptor dysfunction. And the last driver of hormone receptor dysfunction is environmental toxins. Now, there are certain environmental toxins in our everyday products. Toxins like phytolates, BPA, and pesticides. These are known as endocrine disruptors because essentially they're fake hormones. These chemicals are so good at pretending to be hormones, our bodies can't tell the difference between them and our actual hormones. So they wind up competing for space on our hormone receptors. As a result, repeated exposure to these toxins actually increases the risk of hormone receptor dysfunction and makes it harder for our body to respond to its natural hormones. Unfortunately, these chemicals appear like everywhere. From the plastic water bottles we drink out of, to the candles we burn, to the pots and pans we cook with, and even our cleaning supplies, cosmetics, and personal care products. Just to give you an idea of how common this is, according to a national report on human exposure to environmental chemicals by the CDC, 93% of Americans have detectable levels of BPA, a known endocrine disruptor that can block estrogen and thyroid hormone receptors in our bodies. 93%. If you're still skeptical as to whether hormone receptor dysfunction may be causing your hormonal symptoms, consider this. Fact: up to 80% of women with PCOS experience insulin resistance, a result of inflammation and impaired insulin receptor sensitivity. Fact: chronic low-grade inflammation associated with obesity disrupts hormone receptor function, contributing to a 60% increased risk of estrogen dominance. Fact: up to 70% of post-menopausal women experiencing metabolic syndrome and symptoms like hot flashes and weight gain have estrogen receptor dysfunction caused by inflammation. Fact: up to 40% of hypothyroid patients on medication report persistent symptoms despite normal lab results, often due to inflammation impairing thyroid hormone receptor function. And lastly, fact: in a survey of menopausal women, 35% reported ongoing symptoms like hot flashes and brain fog, despite normal hormone levels, due to receptor inflammation preventing hormones from functioning properly. The bottom line is this: just because your blood work looks normal doesn't mean everything's working the way it should. If you're dealing with a hormone imbalance that isn't showing up in your labs, it could be a receptor problem caused by inflammation. Now, luckily, there's many ways to reduce inflammation and optimize your hormones naturally that I'll continue to share with you throughout this podcast. So there you go. The truth about why you can still have a hormone imbalance even if your blood work is normal, and the 5 factors that contribute to inflammation and hormone receptor dysfunction. Join me next week when we take a deep dive into some trending hormone balance trends, including which ones work and which ones miss the mark. In the meantime, if you need help figuring out what's going on with your hormones or what you can do to get back your energy, balance your mood, or lose some of that stubborn hormonal weight, head on over to bit.ly/Are You There Midlife and sign up for a hormone balance breakthrough session. During this 50-minute private consultation, I'll analyze your unique hormone symptom profile, including your assessment results for 9 of the most common subclinical hormonal imbalances in women. Then, we'll take a deep dive into your personal health history, and I'll identify the underlying root causes of your hormonal symptoms. Lastly, I'll lay out a personal action plan tailored to you and your body, including the exact next steps to alleviate your most disruptive symptoms. If you're tired of information overload or wasting your time and money on solutions that don't work for you, head on over to bit.ly/Are You There Midlife or click on the link in today's show notes to book your hormone balance breakthrough session and start feeling better faster. Until next week, sending you out into the world wishing you health, happiness, and fewer hot flashes. Hey friend, can I call you friend? Because I already feel like we're friends in my head. Did this podcast teach you something, make you laugh, or feel less like an alien? If so, I would be so incredibly grateful if you could take just 60 seconds to rate, review, and subscribe. That is the number one way you can thank me and support the show. Until next week, stay cool and keep away from sharp objects.